What's good, everybody? Touchdowns and Tangents, live from the Good News radio station. I'm PD Camarillo. Who are you?
I'm Kenneth Berry.
Sorry, that's my bad. But yeah, man, for those of you who don't know, we are the dynamic duo, Touchdowns and Tangents, your place for Thursday night football talk, NFL takes, topical tangents for the culture. Shout out to S Squad affiliates, FPC Radio,
BS3 Radio,
your favorite podcast app, and anybody else who fucks with us. For those of you who don't know, we were at the Senior Bowl last week, Mobile, Alabama. I don't know how you could have missed that, considering that's literally been all our social media for like 2 weeks. So if you haven't gotten a chance to check that out, make sure you go to TDs_tangents. Check that shit out, boy.
And Anchor too. Like literally, there's like almost an hour worth of audio out there in interviews. So listen.
So Kenny, just before we get into the actual draft side of it, what was your biggest takeaway from the Senior Bowl?
On the field, the biggest takeaway is that Justin Herbert could legitimately be the number 1 overall pick.
I just meant actually personally the experience.
Oh, the personal experiences? God, I miss when there was no traffic on the road. Honestly, the fact there being just lack of traffic and freeway being stuff reminded me when I was a child. Which was I
just enjoyed learning that Mardi Gras started in Mobile and not Louisiana.
You stole my next point. Yes.
The
word was debauchery, as defined by our Lyft driver, who said something subtly racist as we were getting out of the lift. And all I hear when you were walking to the elevator is you just howling and cackling from inside the hotel. And I'm trying to keep it together. And I'm just like, we're in Mobile, Alabama. By the way, shout out to the Waffle House on Airport Drive. The GOATs. They are the best.
Yeah, my hotel was actually right there the next day. But, yeah, so the funny thing is my coworker brought in a King's Cake, which is essentially like a sort of Danish, but for Mardi Gras, and there's like a little baby in there, and whoever gets the baby has to bring the King's Cake next year. Anyways, I just thought it was funny and ironic that, we got that shipped from Louisiana today, and I was telling her about the Mardi Gras fact, and she's like, yeah, I know. She's like, I had a cousin move to Mobile, and she's like, always try to rub that in my face, and I was just like, nobody cares.
It's Mobile.
Everyone goes to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. Nobody cares where it started.
Mobile's the family one, but they're both occupied by the French at the time, so learn a lot of history. Next time I got to hit up that Satchel Paige field though. Hank Aaron Field, my bad.
But yeah, man, if you really want to deep dive into the Senior Bowl, we have a ton of content on touchdownsandtangents.com, or you can just type in Touchdowns and Tangents on Anchor, the app, or anchor.fm, and you can find it all there. But yeah, so just real quick, just to kind of wrap everything up from that week and, try to move forward. What else did you take away? You mentioned Herbert. What else did you take away in terms of the draft from that whole?
This is a loaded receiver and defensive line class. And, this is probably one of the deepest drafts since that infamous Odell Beckham draft year.
In terms of receivers?
In terms of receiver in general, this is a deep draft. Think about it. There could potentially be 3 franchise quarterbacks in this draft. Legit. Legit. Burrow, Herbert, Tua. You could argue even Jordan Love. And Jacob Eason might become something. That's 4 guys legit who could change a franchise. And with an old guard of quarterbacks almost on their way out, it's interesting. And then you look at all the receivers coming in. Tight end, Harrison Bryant, Mathieu winner. He has 65 catches for over 1,000 yards. 45 of those catches were first downs. And you look at the 2 best players on both offenses, or one of the 2 best players on both offenses are tight ends, arguably. George Kittle, Travis Kelce. This cat could be the next Kittle in terms of his willingness to block, and has some Kelce to him as far as his athletic ability and his catching the football. So I think it'll be a really interesting class. And the defensive line class, just the defensive linemen, the edge rushers, They mobbed.
I was going to say the linebacker class. I think they're, just from what I've listened to from your reporting and just what I've been reading, there's been a lot of guys that were both productive in college and then are also surprisingly athletic and bring a lot of good instincts. So I'm looking forward to see how they kind of sort themselves out with more, combine testing, and we'll see where everyone kind of ranks and plays out.
Yeah, Bradley and I out of Utah, all-time sack leader, was in Jalen Hurts' face like he owed him money.
Which a lot of people were asking about Hurts, and obviously, being in Alabama, he was kind of the star of the show.
Yeah,
he was the star of the show, but we can put it on the O-line. We can put it on a lot of things, but ultimately,
he did not look good.
He did not look good, and from what I was hearing in the practice, he was kind of hit or miss too.
Yeah, it was not good. He needs work.
Unfortunately, I mean, and we've talked about this. Is he gonna find somewhere that's gonna draft him and invest that work into him as a black quarterback? I don't know, man. It's unlikely. But if he was, from 6'5" from Penn State, he might get an extra year or two in the league.
I mean, Trace McSorley's a backup in the league, and I didn't think he was even going to get drafted. And I thought Tyree Jackson was a better player than him anyway. But, things happen. That dude's in Buffalo now.
So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out.
I think Hurts had some good things about him, but it didn't help that the North defensive line was just whooping the South defensive line's ass.
Yeah, I was really
week.
disappointed in really the offensive line. I feel like there were some inside guys, but the thing with inside guys is you can get them late, and
the Oregon guy,
they don't always translate just because a lot of those guys have miles on their knees and their heads. So, and a lot of them can be system guys, and just depending on their athleticism. So it's a lot, but like the tackles, I feel like were athletic specimens, but I just
South Carolina State tackle.
I just didn't see I didn't really see a lot of what I wanted to see from that group.
I think the North just instilled physicality from the get-go. The North offensive and defensive lines were going to war during practice week.
But
so
overall,
a lot of those guys are going to be drafted.
How would you grade your coverage last week? How do you think you did personally?
I give it a B+. There's some moments where
it's pretty high, man.
I feel like for my first time ever covering something that big and just being out there and getting the content that I did, I'd say just a quick grade, a B+, and then other areas I got A's in. Other areas I got, a B, a C+. So I'm kind of just looking at it like that, breaking it down.
What do you feel like you can improve next time?
I think the biggest thing I would say is just knowing what content works where. I think if I just had that divvied up, like now that I had all that audio, but I think the real planning when it came to just knowing where all that stuff goes and just publishing there and flooding the timeline that way would have solved me like some headaches. Because I was just like in the moment, especially for like media days and practice, I was just focused on getting video, audio, and making sure I had enough to last for whatever I wanted to do with it, rather than kind of, if I work the other way, saying, okay, this is all the stuff I want to do, and then not worrying about, okay, I don't have to get everybody. Because my first initial reaction was I wanted to get like as much as possible. And sometimes that could be overwhelming when you're trying to.
That's definitely overwhelming because when you get,
because I got like 30 people.
When you get back to your computer, you just have a lot of shit you got to listen to and sort out and find out what goes where and
then once you publish it
and how to push it out, and it's just a lot.
And once you publish it, you're like, damn, I should have did it this other way. Like, so I know some people who were just out there to write articles. I was out there trying to get everything. So it's kind of like I look at it a little bit differently. But as the football part, honestly, was the easiest part, just watching it as a former offensive lineman and someone who like can see the game and see how things go. That was the easiest part. It was just getting some of those clutch moments, getting some of those, those great shots. Like some of the video of just receivers just straight out embarrassing corners in the end zone. Some of those catches were amazing. But, I'm a one person. Like, I can't have a high-powered camera and be able to get it and then relay it to someone in a truck. So I can't really try to have those type of expectations and think I'm going to produce the same thing as people who have more resources. It's more like just, okay, let me have kind of a smaller, realistic goal that I want.
This is what you talk about on this podcast, right? Talk your shit, but be honest with yourself and where you are and what you're trying to get to.
Yeah.
So fuck all that limited resources fucking shit, putting yourself in a box. That's bullshit. Like,
no, I don't mean like that. I mean like I wanted to do a bunch of stuff, and I did a bunch of stuff. But it's more like, okay, with a bunch of stuff I did, how can I like perfect that, rather than just trying to constantly get a bunch of stuff and say I did this, and this. But like,
it's just prioritizing. It comes with time and experience. Like you said, it was your first time covering a big event, so it just takes time and knowledge, man,
and learning some tricks. Like I learned some tricks and little tips just on the fly.
Man, honestly, I've seen motherfuckers in a scrum, like literally, like record 3 interviews at one time. Like I've seen a dude hold a camera and have a selfie stick, and then have a camera on his backpack recording 3 different people in the Lakers locker room. Like I've seen some crazy ass shit. Like there's some people out there who hustle. I fuck with them. But yeah, man, ultimately, I'd say I give myself a C. I feel like I did some good stuff on social media. I really enjoyed experimenting. The players really liked what I was doing on Snapchat. Even like Jim Nagy and they were like, "Oh, I never seen shit like that." And I was like, "Yeah, that's what I do for a living. I blaze trails, sir." But yeah, ultimately, I feel like I give myself a C only because, like, I'm happy that I was out there. I'm happy that I was doing stuff, but I just feel like I'm still getting better at transactional interviews. I'm not really comfortable doing transactional interviews, especially like for audio tape. I just don't like it. So I'm just learning how to get better at that because I'm more of a long form kind of conversation person. You know, that's why we kind of have this podcast where it's more conversational and less about clout. But I digress. So on that note, I just want to take a few more minutes to talk about the topic of the week that everyone's been talking about. I don't want to spend too much time talking about this just because everybody's been talking about it all week, and you know, as much as we're all grieving and hurting and sad and really have our soul taken out of us, we do also have a responsibility to move forward. And then with the big game here, obviously, like, I just want to give people something to look forward to and something to get them through their days and their nights and their weeks. And especially these next few days leading up to Super Bowl, because honestly, like, this news this week really, really, like, it made the Super Bowl go away for 4 days. Like, honestly, the Super Bowl just came up, like, on my timeline and shit, like, today. Like, and media week's already been going on for 4 days, which is absurd.
Yeah. So
with all the radio roll, all that stuff, like, usually that just dominates everything. Usually you can't get away from it, and this year was like the opposite. Like, I had to go and actually look for it and seek it out. So for those of you who don't know, who've been living under a rock for whatever reason, Kobe Bryant is no longer with us. He died along with 8 others in a helicopter crash on the hillside of Calabasas this past weekend. Obviously, we send our condolences to all the families involved. For all of you out there who are feeling some type of way, we love you. We're feeling the same way. You're not alone. We're gonna get through it. We're gonna get through it as a city, as a community. And I'm not even a Laker fan, and I feel it deep down to my soul. So, you know, I've already kind of talked about it and shared a little bit and written about it. So I'm interested more to hear what you have to say about the whole topic, Kenny.
It's weird because, like, I said this off the air, and I've said a couple of places, like my sports identity is like, my sports childhood is like 90% Kobe. Like, coming from East Oakland in '99 and coming out here, like,